So, recently hired journalist for the New York Times, Sarah Jeong has found herself, depending on who you read or listen to be outed as an extreme bigot for her years-long record of, well, bigoted posts about white people. Or she is at the center of an internet bullying campaign because her racism is not racism, because whites, and only whites, can be racist. Now, what I'm going to do is a thought experiment. I'm going to replace the words in some of her tweets. What I'm going to do is replace the word white with black or Jews. And I want you to imagine the reaction at the New York Times hiring someone with a data trail of such posts as dumbass fucking black people marking up the internet with their opinions like dogs pissing on fire hydrants. Are Jews genetically predisposed to burn faster in the sun, thus logically being only fit to live underground like groveling goblins? Oh man, it's kinda sick how much joy I get out of being cruel to old black men. Cancel Jews. And a host of others. I think you get the idea. To put this into perspective, comedian Roseanne Barr's new television show was canceled by Disney for a single tweet made about this woman, Valerie Jarrett. In the tweet, she said, Muslim Brotherhood and Planet of the Apes had a baby equals VJ, the VJ meaning Valerie Jarrett. Now, when I look at her, I would guess that she's either Hispanic or possibly from one of the Central Asian stands, but as it turns out, the one-drop rule still exists in the US, and according to the television series Finding Your Roots, DNA testing indicated that Jarrett is 46% African, and thus the word ape in Roseanne's tweet was taken to be racist, even though she said she was unaware of this fact, and Disney canceled her show, and it may have cost the company $100 million. There are other examples of our culture of outrage, but you get the point. Roseanne is a white lady, and she made a one-off questionable tweet about another woman where she said herself she was unaware that Jarrett was black because she doesn't look black. But none of this matters. The offended machine revved up into high gear and destroyed her career. Now, swing it back to Miss Jeong. Over the course of several years, she has posted tweet after tweet after tweet laced with hatred and vitriol for white people, and especially white men. However, when this was brought to the attention of the New York Times, they responded that this fab, their words, not mine, this fab new employee, because she is an Asian woman, is subject to online harassment, and supposedly by spewing her racist and bigoted views, it was her way to respond to her harassers. Okay, sure. What is even more interesting is the toxically Marxist far left is coming to her defense with literally intersectional oppression-splaining. For example, an article written in Vox by Aja Romano has literally, through a written fog of ideological flatulence and mental gymnastics, explained that her bigotry is in fact not bigotry because, and as we've heard before, only whites can be racist. Her eliminationist rhetoric, language that wishes an entire race could be wiped off the face of the earth with the hashtag cancel white people or the white people have stopped breeding, you'll all go extinct soon, that was my plan all along. Well, to equate these kinds of posts with racism is, in Romano's mind, and in her words, a false equivalency. Okay, fine, I'll give that a pass, and to be fair, we do live in an outrage culture that was created by the far left, I might add. But what is really happening here is that when their vitriol, their hate, their bile, their contempt, and their virulent racism is put on display, the far left say, no, wait, time out, not fair, you have to use context, and then they proceed to throw out every buzzword they have learned during their time in gender studies departments at what used to pass for universities. Oppression, marginalization, whiteness, supremacy, and this verbal diarrhea is an attempt to escape the same outrage culture that they themselves have created. Interestingly, when another Twitter user flagged her tweets, Twitter, to their credit, came back that her tweets did violate their rules against posting violent threats and hateful content. But the New York Times has stated that it is fine with hate so long as that hate is directed toward white people. Because let us be crystal clear, everyone listening to this knows full well that if a white man had posted even one of these tweets, his career at the New York Times would be over. Also, I do find the crocodile tears that as an Asian woman, she is systemically abused online, and as an Asian person, systemically oppressed and marginalized in American society. For your information, Sarah, Asian women are the most sought after race of women by all races of men, except for other Asian men, interestingly. At least according to a recent study that analyzed data from 2.4 million heterosexual interactions on the Facebook app, Are You Interested? And what do you know? According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the average Asian American in this marginalizing and oppressive country not only has a higher per capita income than the average white American, but the average Asian American has a higher per capita income than all other ethnic groups in the United States. Once the floodgates were opened in 1965, the U.S. has gone from a 90% white country to a country where whites will soon be in the minority. A country where millions upon millions of non-whites are clamoring to get into. So what? They too can be oppressed and marginalized by systemic white supremacy? These kinds of facts don't really fit the narrative of the oppression splainers like Miss Jiang. And thus, you'll never hear them commenting on them either. You know, if Miss Jiang hates white people, white culture, and being surrounded by whiteness, she might be better off in South Korea, the country of her birth, and the country I very much love, as I was there just 3 months ago, where upward to 30,000 white American men, the men she hates, the men that she, via her hundreds of tweets, reviles, but still died to give her and her family freedom. There, she could be free of white people, as Korea is probably one of the most ethnically homogenous nations on earth. She could be rid of the vile, oppressive yoke that she lives under in America and be free. But we know she won't, as I'm sure that Koreans would believe her to be deluded if she attempted to practice the same shtick in Korea by telling them that they are living in a country with Korean privilege and Korean supremacy, and that their Koreanness is and of itself oppressive and marginalizing to people of other groups in that country. Most likely, they would probably think that her brain and worldview had become defective from living in the US for so long. But to conclude, yes, Ms. Jiang is a virulent and unrepentant bigot. However, I agree with the New York Times for not giving in to the outrage generated by her Twitter history. The reason being, if they do, all it does is encourage more mobs to form over whatever outrage porn is served up next week. What's needed is a socially agreed upon set of standards, and to simply listen to people before they are socially crucified. In simple language, people need to calm down and listen before they fly off the handle in self-righteous indignation. I think if Roseanne Barr's Twitter controversy came up a few months from now rather than a few months ago, the example of the New York Times and not caving into mob outrage might have given Disney an example to follow, and her show would most likely still have been on air and not have been cancelled. Yes, the mainstream media is for the most part duplicitous, highly partisan, and hypocritical, and the New York Times is particularly so. But we already knew this. What the New York Times might have done, however, inadvertently, is by showing its true colors and losing even more readership in its stance over Miss Jiang and its support of her unmitigated bigotry, it may have finally set society upon the course to cure the country of its hair-trigger outrage response to anything they perceive to be heretical to our new, hyperly sensitive and judgmental society. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. Also follow Black Pigeon on the usual social media. Till next time.